I want to talk about challenging the status quo. I don't think enough people push themselves to challenge their own status quo, and I don't think enough organizations challenge their own status quo. And I want to talk about challenging the status quo around three different topics. One being innovation, one being communication, and one being education. Let's start with innovation, right? And let's start with you as an individual. I believe as you grow up, you're very, very happy most of the time. You want to ask yourself now, why am I so happy when I'm in grade school, middle school, high school, college? I believe it's because you're always learning, right? Through the moment you are born till about 21, you're always learning maybe new content in the form of a class, right? Physics, math, English. You're learning new experiences. You're learning how to better communicate with people. You're learning social skills. You're learning so many different things, and it's expanding and growing your mind, right? You're basically innovating yourself. You're becoming a person, right? And you're learning how to operate in this crazy, crazy world that we all live in. What happens after college? Well, you hopefully get a job. Most people typically get a job of some kind. And at those jobs, learning typically takes a back seat. Right? Most companies don't encourage and provide opportunities to always be learning. And that's the big problem. Happiness is derived from learning, right? So if you're not learning, I don't believe you're going to be as happy as you could be. So that's the first point I want to make, right? I challenge you folks listening to think about this right now. How often do you learn both personally and how often do you learn while you're at work? And hopefully you're working in a job that you're really passionate about, that you really care a lot about, that particular cause you're working towards, or that belief, or the product or service you're selling, right? And you want to be constantly challenging that status quo, making the product better, innovating the product, right? Figuring out how to get better at doing your own personal side project, right, when you're not at work, right? Always be challenging yourself, trying to grow your mind in some way. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about, because I don't think that happens enough. Secondly, as you grow up, you get hopefully better at communicating, right? Both face-to-face, over the phone. Some people don't. Some people might not. I see Joey's reaction right now. And that's a problem because learning revolves communication. It involves communication. It revolves around communication, and it's a core piece of it. So I think you as an individual want to always be thinking about how am I communicating, and I think that's a great opportunity to reflect. You can do reflection in many different ways, but I think just thinking about and being self-aware around how you're communicating with individuals by email, by phone, by instant message text, all of these different ways, in meetings, it's going to help you with that first thing we talked about, that learning, that innovation, because you'll start to listen more, right? Communication, a lot of it, most of it's about listening and then responding appropriately, right? And sometimes not responding and just listening and then reflecting on what you just learned. So I think communication is something a lot of people don't think enough about and don't reflect enough on, and it's really a pillar that you want to think about as you try to delight yourself, but as you also think about communication from an organization standpoint. Who doesn't want to be listened to when you're trying to solve a problem or reach a goal when you're buying a product or using a product? That's bad if you're not being listened to and your problems aren't being solved and your goals aren't being achieved. You're not going to stay long with that company. You'll cancel. You'll go to a competitor. You'll go to another solution. So I think as an individual, you want to think a lot about communication, but then as an organization, if you're working for an organization and you're doing customer service, marketing, sales, any of that which involves communication, you want to think about, am I challenging the status quo? Am I trying to become a better communicator to our customers and communicate to them in a very personal way? And you can do personal communication in scalable formats, right? You can make your email marketing that much better. You can pay attention to the things they're saying on social media, the customers, the leads. You can do things to still create a rich dialogue and communication to learn from those people, so it helps you innovate your product or service, and personally will help you learn and grow as well. The final thing I want to talk about that I think you should all be questioning and asking yourself is education. We're talking about learning. We're talking about you should always be learning and you shouldn't be settling. You shouldn't stop educating yourself and your customers, right, if you're an organization, after the sale or after college or after high school. You don't want to do that. If you stop educating yourself, how are you going to grow? How are you going to make yourself and others better? It's going to be harder to do so because you will be falling into a trap of this status quo. You're just going to become complacent. And that will lead to boredom. That will lead to not being happy. So ask yourself, when was the last time I educated myself? How often do I educate myself? Do I teach myself something? Do I learn from a video online? Do I read blogs? Do I take continuing education classes online through a massive open online classroom or a certification program or in-person classroom training at a local university or college? Ask yourself that, and if you haven't done that recently, I challenge you to go do that. It's going to help you learn more, it's going to help you become a better communicator, and it will help you push yourself and challenge your own status quo and help you innovate your own side project, your own personal passion. Or, on the flip side, the organizational side, it will help you learn how to better serve your customers. You educate your customers, you're serving them, right? You're serving them with content, with information that will hopefully grow their understanding on how to use your product or service, or how to take advantage of what you're serving them with in maybe a new way, in a different way, and they're then thinking differently, and you're teaching them something new, and then that hopefully trickles down to a few more people, right? You gotta always be thinking about, how am I teaching myself new things and teaching our customers and leads new things. And I really believe if you think about and focus on those three different things, innovating, right, both your own personal passions and projects, like in terms of challenging those status quos, right? If you have a personal project around building a website or building a blog or building a garden, right, at your house, it could be anything. It could be taking flying lessons, challenging yourself, right, pushing yourself to get better at that, right? Do that. Then think about, how can you become a better communicator, right, when you're doing those things for yourself or for the people in your organization that you're trying to serve, your customers and even your team members, those employees, right? Becoming better at communication. And then finally, the education piece, right? And these are all really much related, like we just talked about. But how are you becoming more educated about that personal passion, that belief of yours, and then your own, the people you're serving, your own customers, your own employees, are you educating them? Are you helping grow their mind? Are you challenging their own assumptions? Do not let yourself fall into the trap of the status quo. It's not a fun place to be, and you won't be as happy if you do fall into that trap.